Hello guys, this is part 63 of SQL Server video series. In this video, we will discuss about cursors in SQL Server. Relational database system, including SQL Server, are very good at handling data in sets. For example, consider this update statement. Update TBL product sales, set unit price is equal to 50, where product ID is equal to 101. All the rows in TBL product sales, all the rows in the TBL product sales table which meet the condition the where clause will have the unit price. The where clause will have the unit price, update to 50 as a single set, and SQL Server is very efficient, at operating on data in sets. In fact, SQL statement like update, delete, select, etc., they handle data in sets in a very efficient way. But however, if there is ever a need, if there is ever need for us to process the rows on a row by row basis, then cursors can be used. Cursors are very bad for performance and they should always be avoided. Since cursors operate on row by row basis, they can be extremely slow, but remember, most of the time this cursor can be very easily replaced using joins. And in SQL Server, there are different types of cursors: forward only, static, key set, dynamic, etc. We will talk about the differences. Between these cursors, type in a later video session. Let's look at a simple example of using cursor. Now, before we look at cursor, let's understand what a cursor is. A cursor is nothing more than a pointer to a row. Now let's say when I execute a select statement, I have this result set. So let me execute this. So when I execute a select statement, I have this result set, and I want to process the rows within the result set on a row by row basis. I want to process individual row at a time. Okay, so if that is the case, I can have a pointer or a cursor pointing to this result set, pointing to this result sets. Maybe the cursor is pointing to the first row. Maybe the cursor pointing to the first row, and if I ask it to give the row, it gives me the first row, and then it moves to the second row. And then when I ask it to give the row again, it is going to that row. It is going to that row and move to next row at some point of time when it passes. When the cursor returns the 10th, when the cursor returns the 10th record, there are no more rows within this result set, in which case it does not return anything back. Okay. So let's see how to use cursor. Now what I basically want to do is using cursor. I want to point the ID. I want to print the ID. I want to print the ID and the name of each row that is present in TBL products table. Okay. So we want to print the ID and the name of each row that is present in TBL products table. Okay. So I have two variables to hold the ID. So I have two variables. To hold the ID and the name. Product ID is of type integer. Name is of type nvarchar. And then look at that. This is the statement. This is the statement where we are declaring a cursor. Using the declare keyword. Declare name of the cursor. And then cursor for. Okay, we will have a cursor for a result set, and to get the result set we use a select query, and to get the result set we use a select query. So if I execute this select query, I'm going to get all the products where ID is less than or equal to 1000. So I execute it. So it is going to get all the products where ID is less than or equal to 1000. Just to make this query run a little faster, I have only retrieved 1000 records. Otherwise, it is going to take a little bit of time. Okay. Just to make this query run a little faster, I have only retrieved 1000 records. Otherwise, it is going to take a little bit of time. Okay. So this select statement, is giving me a result set. And then I am asking a pointer or cursor to be pointing to that result set. And I am asking a pointer or cursor to be pointing to that result set. Okay, so declare name of the name of the cursor for and you specify a select statement Okay, so we have declared a cursor at this point. Okay, now when you say open product cursor, which is nothing but this cursor, So when you say open product cursor, which is nothing but this cursor that we have just declared, what is going to happen? The select statement will be executed, and all the rows that match that select statement, the condition in the where clause, are now retrieved into this result set. And you will have your cursor pointing just above the first record, and you will have your cursor pointing just above the first record. So the cursor will not be pointing to any row. And you will have your cursor pointing just above the first record, so the cursor will not be pointing to any row. Okay, it will be pointing, it will be ready to retrieve the rows. Okay, now when you say fetch next from TBL from product cursor into product ID and name, what is going to happen? The cursor will retrieve the first record, the ID into product ID, the ID into product ID column, and the name into the name column, I mean name variable. So we have, the data of the first row retrieved into these variable. Okay, the data of the first row retrieved into these variables. And then look at this, we are checking while at fetch status is equal to 0. This variable this variable is going to return 0. This variable is going to return 0 as long as we have rows, within the result set. Okay. So remember, the cursor will return one row at a time. So remember, the cursor will return the one row at a time. So it returns the first row. So it returns the first row. Then it goes to the second rows. Then the third row, etc. Now when it passed all the 1000 rows, then this at fetch status will not be 0. Then this at fetch status will not be 0. That is the indication for us, to know that we have processed all the row. So this fetch status will return 0. So this fetch status will return 0 as long as there are rows to be processed. And now what I want to do, I want to print the ID. So print let's say ID. So print, let's say, ID is equal to whatever ID we get. So where is the ID present? ID is present in this. ID is present in this product ID. ID is present in this product ID variable. ID is present in this product ID variable. So I am going to cast. That to be of type nvarchar. Because we are printing, the product ID, and we are concatenating that to string. So we need to typecast that, and I'm going to say the length as, and I'm going to say the length as 10. Okay. And then maybe I want to say name is equal to, and where name is present, that is present in this, at name variable. That is present in this at name variable. And look at this. So we are printing the ID name. And what do we have again? Fetch next from product cursor into that variable. So we have got the first row. Here. Now we are retrieving the second row, and we are going to do this as long as there are rows, within our result set, because these statement because these statement because these statements are inside a loop, because these statements are inside a loop. Okay, now when the cursor reaches the 1000 record, there are no more rows. There are no more rows. So the at fetch status will return non-zero. Return non-zero, and that is the indication for us we have completed processing the rows in the result set. And then finally I have closed product cursor, and then finally I have closed product cursor. So what is this going to do? It is going to release the result set. This statement is going to release the result set and finally deallocate, and finally deallocate will actually deallocate the resources that are being used by this cursor. Okay, these two states, okay, these two statements are very important to close the result set and to deallocate the resources that are used by the cursor. Now let's go ahead and now let's go ahead and run this and see what is going to happen. So let's run this and see what is going to happen. So as expected, it should print ID. It should print the ID and the name of the product. So see how easy it is to actually loop through the row using cursors. Now let's look at a simple example of using cursor. Now let's say, for example, I want to, if you look at this TBL product sales, if you look at this TBL product sales table, it has got the product ID. So first of all, to run this query, I am going to change the insert value. Here is the sample insert data into TBL product. First let 600,000 we will say it. Okay, so I am going to my notepad, and here is the so what is here? 40,000 and 40,000. 1 to 40,000. So change it to 40,000, and it should also be 40,000. Okay, and we need also to change this to insert. We want to insert 600,000 rows. Okay, so I have to change this insert sample data because earlier we were inserting 1000 rows. So to change this, you can use you have to first delete the table product, and you have to again create this product table. So let me delete this table now. I'm deleting it. Delete it. Okay, error occurred. So let me try it again. So first of all, I need to copy it. Copy this and go to the first query and paste it here. Okay, now what we need to do is, first of all, we need to delete both the tables. First we need to delete TBL product sales. Delete it. Click OK. Delete it. Click OK. Okay, we have deleted both the tables now because we were using 1000 rows initially. So what I need to do now, I need to create the table again. So I create this again, execute it, and execute this also. Okay. So when we were having 1000 rows to be inserted as a sample data into the TBL products table, there was no, the query execution was so quickly. It took less than 1 2 second to complete the execution. Now since we are inserting 600,000 rows, so it will take long time, maybe 1 minute or more than 1 minute. So we will have to wait for that. So because I have changed the changed the insert sample data into the TBL products table from 1000 to 600,000 rows. So execute it and see the timing of the execution. So it is going to executing. Now you will see that here the time is running. It will take around 1 minute 20 second or 30 second maybe on my machine. So it is executing it. So what we want to do now, if we run this query, select top 10 from TBL product sales, then we will have to see. So let me complete this execution of this query. It is taking time. So it is still executing, as you can see, executing query, executing. So it is taking time. It is 1 minute now, and it is going to complete it in 10 to 15 seconds. So wait for time to complete this query. It is 120 now. 121, 22. Okay, it is taking more time. We will have to wait for it. It is still okay. The query processing has completed. It took 1 minute 31 second on my machine. It may take less time on different machine. Okay. Now I have to execute this. These variables also. Here we have declared variables to hold a random product ID, unit price, and quantity sold. Okay, so I am going to execute this query. This query will also take time around 1 minute 31 second. Let's see. I have deliberately, I have completely showed you the description of this query in our previous session video, how to write these insert value into the TBL product sales. As you can see it here, rand function has been used, rounds, and we are multiplying it. So now execute this. So be careful executing it. So we are going to execute it. Come on. So now execute it. So it will again take 1 minute 31 second on my machine because the values or rows are huge. We are inserting 600,000 rows, so it will take time. So after executing these insert values or rows, then we will execute the select top 10 from TBL product sales. So let the query execution to be completed. So as you can see, 45 second has been complete over. Now 50 second, 51. So it will take around 1 minute 30 second on my machines. Okay, maybe on different machine it may take less time, but on my machine it is taking 1 minute 31 second to complete this execution of query. So still executing query, as you can see here, and it is 1 minute 23 second past, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and you can see it here. Still query is being executed. So now the time has come. It is taking too much time. Okay, and as you can see, query executed successfully. Now move up. So what we want to do now, so select. So if you look at this TBL product sales table, it has got the product ID. So let me execute this. Execute it. Okay. If you look at this TBL product sales product ID, as you can see here, product ID and the unit price, quantity, sold, etc. Now let's say I want to update this. Now let's say I want to update this unit price, and there are some condition to follow, There are some condition to follow to update the unit price in TBL product sales. Which condition we are talking about? These are the condition. To update the unit price in TBL product table. Now if the product name is product 55, then I want to set the unit price in this table. Then I want to set the unit price in this table to 55. But whereas if the product name is 65, whereas if the product name is 65, then I want to set it to the unit price to 65. But whereas if the product name starts with product 100, after that I don't care what we have, but in that case if the product name is like that, product 100, and then anything after, then I want to set the unit price to 1000. Then I want to set the unit price to 1000. Okay. So I mean these are some crazy conditions. So these are some crazy conditions, but I want to demonstrate the use of cursor here. Let's see how to do that. And one important thing to keep in mind is we don't have product name. We don't have product name in this table. But remember, if the product name is 55, then I want to set the unit price to 55. Then I want to set the unit price to 55. If the product name is 65, then I want to set the unit price to 65. Whereas if the product name is like, if it start with product 100, then I want to set the unit price to 1000. Okay. There are some conditions, and we don't have product name in this TBL sales table, So what we will have to do? We will We will create a cursor for this table. We will create a cursor for this table. Okay, for this result set. Okay, for this result set for all the rows within the TBL product sales, and then we will loop through each row, retrieve the product ID, go to the products table, and then retrieve the name and check if the name is 55. If the name is 55, then update the unit price. Then update the unit price to 55. Otherwise to 65. Otherwise 1000. Okay, let's see how to do that. Okay, so I am going to call that product cursor. So I'm going to call that product cursor. I don't need, I need a name variable, but I don't need the name. I need a name variable, but I don't need the name. I don't need the name. I don't need the name here. So I want to retrieve select ID. So I want to retrieve select ID from not ID. It is actually product ID. It is actually product ID. Product ID. Because in TBL product sales, table, look at this. In TBL product sales, we want to retrieve the product ID. We want to retrieve the product ID. So select product ID. So select product ID from TBL products, from TBL product sales. From TBL product sales. So TBL product sales. Okay. TBL product sales table. Okay. And I am going to get rid of this where clause. And I am going to get rid of this where clause. I want to get rid of this where clause there, and I want to retrieve, when I retrieve the result set, and I want to retrieve, when I retrieve this result set. When I retrieve this result set, I'm creating a cursor. I am creating a cursor. Open product cursor. Open product cursor and fetch next and fetch next from product cursor into product ID. Into product ID. Into product ID. There is no name. within the result set. So I have just product ID. So once I have the product ID, then what we want to do? Then what we want to do? Then what we want to do? We basically want to retrieve the name of the product. We basically want to retrieve the name of the product. Look at this. This is the same code. Look at this. This is the same code. We are declaring two variables. We are declaring a cursor. We are declaring a cursor. And we are retrieving the product ID. And we are retrieving the product ID from TBL sales table. From TBL sales table, and we are opening the product cursor, and we are opening the product cursor. We are retrieving the first row. We are retrieving the first row. We are retrieving the first row into that variable, into that variable, the product ID, into the first the product ID of the first row, into the variable product ID of the first row, into this variable. And while fetch status, and while fetch status is 0, and while fetch status is 0 and 0, what do we want to do? What do we want to do? We want to retrieve the name of the product. So we want to retrieve the name of the product. So I am going to copy this piece of code. So I am going to copy this piece of code. So I want to copy this piece of code and paste it there. And paste it there. Okay. So what are we doing here? We already have a variable for the product name. So I am going to get rid of this, of that. So we got rid of the variable product name. And I am simply going to call, instead of simply name, and I am going to call, instead of simply name, I am going to call this, I am going to call this product name. Okay, so we are retrieving the product name from TBL products. Using the ID. So we are retrieving the product name from TBL products table using the ID that we have got into the variable. We have got into the variable. Okay, and then what we are doing, we are checking if the name is product 55. So so we have so we are retrieving the product name from TBL products table. So we are retrieving product name from TBL products table using the ID that we have got into this variable. That we have got into this variable. Okay, and then what we are doing, we are checking if the name is product 55. The name is product 55. Then we are updating the TBL product sales table. Then we are updating the TBL product sales table to set the unit price to 55, where product ID is equal to whatever is the product ID is equal to whatever the product ID we have retrieved from TBL product sales table. And the most important thing is now, and we are doing that for product 65 as well. If it is 65, then we are setting the unit price to 65. Whereas if the name starts with product dash 100, whereas if this name start with product dash 100, we are setting the unit price to 1000. We are setting the unit price to 1000. And finally I want to retrieve the next row. I just deleted that mistakenly. So let me copy and paste it here. And finally I want to retrieve the next row. I just deleted that by mistake. So fetch next from product cursor into product ID, and this will be repeated as long as we have rows in TBL product sales table. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see how long is this going to take. And remember, there are around 600,000 records in my table, so it is processing. So run this. And see how long this is going to take. And remember, there are around 600,000 records in my table, so it is processing. Look at that, it is still executing the query. It is going to take a little bit of time, as we have seen it before while inserting the record in the table. It took 1 minute 30 to 40 seconds. So here it is going to be 1 minute now. So it will go to 140 second. 1 minute to 40 seconds. So it is still processing. Look, this query execute. So wait for 1 minute 40 seconds. So still processing. It is going to take a little bit of time, as you can see here. 122 seconds, 124, 25, 26. How is this query executed now? It is going to go to the product sales table. So because of time now, so the query executed successfully. How is this query executed now? It is going to take to the product sales table. Look, let's understand how this query is being executed. Let's understand how this query is being executed. Go to the product sales table, retrieve the product ID, and then go to the table TBL products table and get the name, and then compare that with 55. If it is 55, then if it is 55, then it updates unit price to 55. Otherwise 65, otherwise whatever 1000. So this is going to do all this processing 600,000 times, because there are 600,000 records in TBL product sales table, and the query has just completed. Query has completed now. Now look at it. It took around 1 minute 36 seconds. It took around 1 minute 36 seconds, since it has to process the rows on a row by row basis. It took around 1 minute 36 seconds, but we can very easily replace this cursor query using join, and we will discuss about how to do that in our next video session. And when you replace cursor using join, it is going to improve the performance significantly. You don't even, you will be surprised that the update query, the equivalent update query is just going to take less than a second if you use joins. Okay, so let's actually see if the update has worked as expected. And to do that, I already have a select query. To do that, I have select query. I have select query. Already have a select query here. So I am selecting name. So I am selecting name, unit price by joining name, unit price by joining TBL products table and TBL product sales table. And I have set name is equal to, and I have set name is equal to in the where clause. Name is equal to product 55. Name is equal to product 55, product 65, product dash 100. So obviously when we execute this select query, we should look at that any product that has. So let me execute this query. Execute it. So we should look at that any product that has 100, that name that start with product dash 100, the unit price is 1000. If you want to see for product 55 and 65, and if you want to see products 55 and 65, I'm just going to execute that query. If you want to see for product 55 and 65, I'm just going to execute that query and look at that product 55. So execute this. So execute this. So the unit price is 55 for 55, and for 65 it is 65. There are 25 rows which have product name 55 with unit price 55, 65 product name having unit price 65. Okay. So the cursor will loop through each row in TBL product sales table. So the cursor will loop through each rows in TBL product sales table. As there are 600,000 rows to be processed on a row by row basis, it took around 1 minute 36 to 1 minute 40 second, around 1 minute 36 second to 1 minute 40 second on my machine. But we can achieve this very easily using a join, and this significantly increase the performance. We will discuss about this in our next video session. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.